Joy was once called the most expensive perfume in the world. It launched during the Great Depression, survived 2 world wars, and outlasted almost every other fragrance of its era. Then, in 2019, LVMH bought the brand that made it, and quietly killed it. No announcement. No farewell. Just a message on the website. Jean Patou fragrances are no longer in production. 6 luxury fragrance names that millions of women wore, collected, and loved have disappeared, and most of them went without a single headline. Here's the part that stings. These weren't cheap brands that ran out of money. These were houses with decades of loyal customers, iconic bottles, and scents that fragrance collectors still chase on resale sites for hundreds of dollars a bottle. They didn't fail because nobody loved them. They died because of boardroom decisions that had nothing to do with the scent itself. Before we start, tell me in the comments, have you ever gone looking for a fragrance you loved and found out it was gone? Because this list is full of exactly that moment. Armani Mania launched in 2002 as one of Giorgio Armani's most sophisticated releases, a warm, understated amber fragrance that fragrance experts described as quiet luxury before that phrase existed. It wasn't loud, it wasn't trendy, it was the kind of scent that made people stop and ask what you were wearing. And then, without ceremony, it was pulled. According to a fragrance expert interviewed by Parade, it was discontinued because it fell below sales targets compared to newer Armani launches, replaced by more commercially appealing releases. That's the sentence that tells you everything about how the industry really works. A fragrance that was genuinely loved, genuinely sophisticated, and genuinely distinctive. Gone because a spreadsheet preferred something shinier. Remaining bottles now sell for multiples of the original retail price on secondary markets. The next brand on this list didn't just lose one fragrance. It lost everything, twice. Fendi had a fragrance line that began in 1985, and for decades it produced scents that fragrance communities still mourn. Theorema, released in 1998, is described by devotees as one of perfumer Christine Nagel's finest works. Creamy, spicy, and quietly extraordinary. Then in 2006, when the fragrance license changed hands, the entire existing portfolio was erased in one decision. LVMH took over and started fresh. They built a new line anchored by Fendi, which developed its own following. Then in 2014, LVMH discontinued the entire second portfolio too, releasing a statement that the commercial development of Fendi Perfume did not meet the expectations of the company. Fragrance communities described the announcement as sudden, unexpected, and without logical explanation. The scents were liked, they complied with regulations, and they had loyal buyers. None of that was enough. A fashion house that spent nearly 30 years building a fragrance identity ended up with nothing in production. The next collapse is the one that turned a name into a cautionary tale taught in business schools. Halston was once the scent of a generation. The original Halston fragrance launched in 1975 and became one of the best-selling perfumes in America, synonymous with Studio 54, luxury, and a particular kind of American glamour. Then the designer sold the brand name to a corporation in 1983, lost creative control, and what followed was one of the most documented brand destructions in fashion history. The name was sold and resold through a chain of owners, each one licensing it more broadly, attaching it to cheaper and cheaper products, until the Halston name appeared on everything from Perfume to JCPenney clothing lines. Each licensing deal diluted the brand further. By the time the dust settled, Halston had gone from representing American luxury to representing exactly the opposite. The fragrance name survived in diminished form, but the brand it once stood for did not. What makes this one different from every other story on this list is that the designer himself watched it happen and couldn't stop it. The name he built over a lifetime was legally no longer his to protect, and the next story shows what happens when a conglomerate inherits a fragrance icon and decides its name is more valuable than its soul. Jean Patou created Joy in 1929, during the financial crisis that was collapsing the world around him. He made it specifically as an act of defiance, a perfume so opulent, using so many roses and jasmine, that it earned the title of the most expensive perfume in the world. It survived 90 years. Then LVMH acquired Jean Patou in 2018 and almost immediately launched a fragrance called Joy under the Dior label, effectively cannibalizing the name it had just acquired. By 2019, the original Jean Patou fragrance line, including Joy, 1000, and Sublime, was officially discontinued. The website now confirms it plainly. Jean Patou fragrances are no longer in production. Fragrance collectors described it as watching a piece of cultural history get erased for a corporate naming strategy. Vintage bottles of the original Joy 1000 and the Heritage Collection pieces now sell on resale sites for well above their original prices, hunted by collectors who know what was lost. The next brand didn't get absorbed, it just vanished from shelves while its devoted audience was still looking for it. Stella McCartney launched her signature fragrance in 2003, and it immediately found a devoted following. A blend of rose and amber that fragrance communities called warm, wearable, and distinctly elegant. It wasn't flashy, it was the kind of scent that became someone's signature for years. Then it was discontinued, and the community response was unusual enough to be documented. Fans launched campaigns specifically requesting its return. Those campaigns didn't bring the fragrance back. It remained gone, and the audience that had built their personal scent identity around it had nowhere to go. What makes this one particularly frustrating is the reason behind most Stella McCartney fragrance disruptions: licensing and brand restructuring decisions that had nothing to do with whether women actually wanted the scent. The fragrance existed, people loved it, the business machinery moved in a different direction anyway. The final brand on this list is the one that commands the most extraordinary resale prices of anything on this list, and its story is the quietest collapse of all. Guerlain Derby was not a mainstream fragrance. It was a quiet, deeply complex masculine-leaning scent that became legendary precisely because so few people knew it existed. Named after the horse race, it came in a distinctive eagle-shaped bottle that itself became a collector's object. Derby was never a high-volume seller, and Guerlain eventually discontinued it without announcement. What happened next is the measure of what was lost. Fragrance collectors began hunting for remaining bottles, and as supply dried up, prices climbed. Today, a 100-milliliter bottle of Guerlain Derby has been reported selling on resale sites for around $2,000. A fragrance that retailed as a luxury item became a near-priceless artifact, not because it was manufactured as one, but because it was taken away. The fragrance industry creates that scarcity by accident, and then profits from it through nothing more than absence. If you still have a bottle of anything on this list, you are holding something the market has already decided is irreplaceable. 6 fragrances, 6 different reasons they vanished. But one thread runs through every single one of them. None of them died because the scent failed. They died because a business decision somewhere above the perfumer's table decided the name, the license, or the profit margin mattered more than what was in the bottle. There is one thing I haven't told you yet. A handful of fragrance brands faced these exact same corporate pressures, the same licensing chaos, the same conglomerate ownership, and survived with their identity completely intact. What they did differently is the entire next video, and if you have a fragrance you love right now, you'll want to watch it before it disappears too. It's on your screen right now.